No.
No?
But like we know each other.
Oh, you only my notes.
Yeah, I didn't know you would be here today.
Wow.
I'm here every day.
Where are you from?
I'm from a fraud, but I was born in Crown Heights.
Okay.
So we went to school together like a while back.
Wow. And then your family moved to Afra?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah, so
Very
Yeah.
nice. Wow. That's always fun. All right. So the reason why this is considered so foundational, we're learning the Maimar of Adam Ki Yakriv, which you were here on Wednesday. We started to talk about it inside. The reason why it's so foundational is because the message of the Maimar is very much one of the emphasis on personal avoda, on doing the work for ourselves. That we know is one of the biggest differences between what we call typically Chabad Chassidus versus Chagas Chassidus. Are you all familiar with the two category names? Chabad Chassidus is talking about, so if we're familiar, I think we've spoken about the lineage. That's the Chassidus started with the Baal Shemtov, and then his student was the Maggid of Mezrich. And then from the Maggid, Chassidus branched off into different sections, right? One of which is called Chabad, because one of the students of the Maggid was the Alter Rebbe, whose Torah we're learning today. And there were many, many others. But if you want to broadly categorize them, the Alter Rebbe was alone in one category called Chabad Chassidus. Everybody else was in another category, which we call Chagas Chassidus. What does Chabad stand for?
It's an acronym or something.
It's an acronym for Chachma Bina Das, which are the intellectual faculties of the soul and of God as well. Chachma Bina Das are 3 levels of intellect. And Chagas stands for the first 3 emotions over here. If you see Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes. Those are the emotions. And the idea is that the Alter Rebbe kind of branched off from the typical way that the students of the Maggid saw fit to continue the line of teaching Chassidus, in that he decided to make, and the truth is that he didn't decide this on his own, but rather he had very specific instructions from the Baal Shem Tov that were left for him. He never met the Baal Shem Tov, the Alter Rebbe. I think it's the Baal Shem Tov is said that he had Mesiras Nefesh not to meet the Alter Rebbe. He wanted to meet him, but he knew that the Maggid was his Rebbe, so he didn't want to. I think maybe he was at his bris or something. I could be mistaken. But the Baal Shem Tov left instructions with the Maggid to direct the Alter Rebbe to construct this form of Chassidus, which is one where your own effort is very much emphasized, as opposed to Chagas Chassidus. Chagas Chassidus means the emotions. That's not to say that Chabad Chassidim are not emotional or don't serve God with joy or with love and fear. If you look into the Tanya, you'll see that is seen as very, very, very important. The difference is in the method that you're going to get there. Are you going to get there with the more external parts of yourself, which we would call the emotions, the environment around you, impacting you from the outside in? Or are you going to work on the intellectual parts, which are the deeper parts of yourself, and transform them and have them filled with meditations of God, etc., to the point that from the inside out you see a difference? And you'll see this very, very much in the difference in the communities. So if you go into a Chabad community, first of all, it's hard to find a Chabad community because Chabad is everywhere, right? There are certain Chabad communities, but even within that, they're seen as more open, okay? Less, you're not going to see, I drop my kids off in Bateiran, which is around the corner. Are you guys familiar with Bateiran here in Nachlaot? It's right around the corner. It looks a bit like a ghetto. I don't know, call it that, because there's like a negative connotation to that. But the way that they built it was that, and it was built a very long time ago to protect everybody from, because it's one of the first kind of settlements outside of the old city. So they built it in a way of like that. So the houses make like this. They're like walls of protection kind of around, and then there's a chatzer in the middle. There's like an empty space where everyone was able to gather and meet in a safe way, because the houses acted as like walls, sort of. So there are many different Chassidim living there and not. And if you walk in, you'll see that there's these massive signs that say, don't enter here without like a certain way of dress, etc., right? Mea Sharim has the same thing. It's the idea that we're creating a specific environment here. If you're going to walk in, please respect that, because the environment is what we feed off of for our Judaism, right? And there's absolutely nothing wrong with this. It's the truth is, it's the way that all of the other followers of the Maggid saw Chassidus as being. That there's a Rebbe, and that in you having a relationship with the Rebbe and then keeping the atmosphere around you pure and holy, you will get the inspiration to be able to live the Chassidic way of life. Okay? Which is one full of emotion and serving God with joy and living beyond the letter of the law and all of the things that come along with that. The result, really, the truth is the result of the different Chassidic ways of life is the same. If it's a real Chassidus that descends from the Baal Shem Tov, the process is different. So if it's Chagas Chassidus, the process is I'm going to live near my Rebbe, go to him as much as possible, get the emunah that he has, that should have an influence on me. I'm going to live in an environment where the outside influences don't get to me. I'm going to keep that out, filter it out, and that's how I'm going to live a Chassidic life. Chabad Chassidus is, as we said, from the outside in. The role of a Rebbe is incredibly important, but as we actually just, I don't know if we call it celebrated or commemorated or experienced on the Koach Nisan, it's called. You guys familiar with what happened on the 28th of Nisan, a couple days ago? What's today? The Hebrew date today?
29th.
The 29th?
I think.
Right, so yesterday was Koach Nisan. I'm pretty sure it was yesterday or Friday. I don't remember from it. I think it's the 29th. Okay, that I need to be on top of that.
Yes.
Yeah, today is Chavtet. Yeah, okay, so yesterday was Koach Nisan, what's called Kafches, which is Koach. Koach means power. What happened on Koach Nisan many years ago, there's a video of this, which I was just watching last night, was that the Rebbe in Farbrengen started to speak about Mashiach and how we've done, how years and years have gone by and Mashiach hasn't come, and we've done all these things, and the Rebbe says, and I've stood here and I could give out another discourse and another letter and another this, and the fact is that Mashiach hasn't come. And the Rebbe then says, I have done all that I can to bring Mashiach, and now it's on you. And this is a day that we actually, again, I don't know if we say celebrate, commemorate, re-experience every year, because first of all, if the Rebbe is putting something on us, it's because he's giving us the koach to do that as well. If he says it's on you and I can't do it anymore, it means it's on us, it's our responsibility, but it's also in our ability. Koach means ability, right? Power. It's in our power to bring Mashiach. But it's also, it shook the Chassidim up tremendously. And there's a video, I don't know if you guys have seen, a couple days afterwards, where a woman who had lost her son came by to the Rebbe in Dallas and said to the Rebbe, how could you say such a thing? How could you say that you can't bring Mashiach? We're all sitting here relying on you to bring Mashiach. I want to see my son again. I want Mashiach to come. And the Rebbe responds very, very strongly saying, it's up to you. And then the Rebbe starts to point at everyone, and it's up to you, and it's up to you, it's up to you. And this really is the unique path that Chabad Chassidus takes, which is that the Rebbe is not there to bring Mashiach for us. The Rebbe is there to guide us and to give us the way that we then have to take, the path that we then have to walk to bring Mashiach, and to bring personal redemption, and to bring the collective redemption. And this mimer is really emphasizing that. It's going to talk about the difference between Isrusa de L'Sata, Isrusa de L'Eila, two terms that we have learned before in different mimarim. Isrusa de L'Sata means our own work down here, our own limited physical work that we do from our own understanding of God. And then Isrusa de L'Eila means God inspiring us, or the Rebbe inspiring us, or our teacher inspiring us, somebody else lighting us up to Judaism. And the argument is going to be that there's an advantage in an Isrusa de L'Sata, in our own work, even though it's much more limited. If God or a Rebbe or a Tzaddik inspires us, there's momentum that is infinite, because it comes from an infinite place. And that's very powerful. But it's not ours, and therefore it's not as real. It's not as precious. There's a story with the Tzemach Tzedek. The Tzemach Tzedek was the third Chabad Rebbe. You see over there on the board somewhere there. The Tzemach Tzedek was the third Chabad Rebbe. And when he was growing up, he had a melamed. He had a teacher, a tutor, who came to him many years later, once he was already Rebbe, for a Yechidus, and he brought with him his grandson, who had just become Bar Mitzvah, which was very rare, by the way, something we start to take for granted if we look at the if we look at the approach that the Rebbe took, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he met with children, and there were children who would come to Yechidus, bar mitzvah. It was a normal thing. This was unheard of in the time of the Tzemach Tzedek, that a child should be able to come to Yechidus, a 13-year-old to come to Yechidus. Yechidus was seen as Yechidus is a one-on-one meeting with the Rebbe. It's seen as an incredibly spiritual, lofty thing that you have to do a lot of work to prepare for, and how could a child do it? However, because this man had been the Tzemach Tzedek's tutor, he had special privileges, and he was able to bring his grandson in with him, which was a big deal. So they came in, they sat down in front of the Tzemach Tzedek, and the Melamed pointed at his grandson and said to the Tzemach Tzedek, he's around all these great people here, and I want you to give him a blessing that he should have everything that he experiences here around the Rebbe and all the people that he's meeting, that should be ingrained in his brain, and he should remember all of it for his whole life, and he should automatically become a Chassid. And the Tzemach Tzedek responded very harshly, good morning. And he said, for the past 50 years, my grandfather, the grandfather of Tzemach Tzedek, was the Alter Rebbe. The Tzemach Tzedek actually grew up in the Alter Rebbe's home because his mother, the Voralea, passed away when he was very young. And my father-in-law, the Mittler Rebbe, the second Chabad Rebbe, who was the son of the Alter Rebbe, the father-in-law and the uncle of the Tzemach Tzedek. For the past 50 years, my grandfather and my father-in-law have sacrificed everything, and he used the term Mesiras Nefesh, have given over their lives to teach this approach, this Chabad Chassidic approach, which is all about your own efforts. And you're coming here and asking me to make this boy an automatic Chassid? There's no such thing as automatic. There's no such thing in the Chabad philosophy as serving God automatically, as it just happening, as somebody giving that to us as a gift. So that's one story. The truth is that there is a story with the Alter Rebbe of a Chassid who did get an automatic gift. I don't know if anyone's heard of Kusha Lepler. That was the name that he was, Kusha was his nickname. His name was Yekusiel, Rabbi Yekusiel Lepler. He was a shopkeeper and a Chassid of the Alter Rebbe, who famously came to the Alter Rebbe in a one-on-one meeting and said and begged the Alter Rebbe, he said to him, cut off my left side. Now, what does that mean? Cut off my left side? What's the left side of us? We have a right side of our heart and a left side of our heart.
Gevura?
Gevura, correct, within the Sephiros. Within the two souls that we have, it's brought that the godly soul resides primarily in the brain, secondarily in the right side of the heart, and that the animal soul resides primarily in the left side of the heart. The left side of the heart is in charge of pumping blood to the whole body. So it's very loud, right? It's taking that blood and it's pumping it out. So it's the idea of passion, which the animal soul is famous for. The emotions. The seat of the animal soul's emotions is based primarily in the left side of the heart and secondarily in the brain. And we're going to get into that actually in this moment. We'll talk a bit more about the animal soul and the godly soul. They said, cut off my left side, meaning get rid of my animal soul, get rid of my evil inclination, get rid of my animalistic tendencies, and make me somebody who doesn't have an animal soul. What is he called? Or doesn't experience his animal soul at all as an animal. What do we call him? Tzaddik. He came as a shopkeeper, as a chassid, as a very righteous person, as a holy good person, and he said to the Alter Rebbe, make me a tzaddik, cut off my left side. And the Alter Rebbe actually gave him a blessing that he should become a tzaddik. And he described these experiences to the Chassidim as saying, he would say the Chassid came and the Chassid went. He had this very volatile relationship with God because this gift of a tzaddik had been given to him undeservingly. He didn't have control over it. So he would describe that sometimes he would come to pray and he would pray like a tzaddik for hours and hours with real love and fear for God. And sometimes he would show up and daven with a regular minyan, just like a regular person, because it would come and go and it wasn't of his own making. But he became a tzaddik. He was a holy tzaddik. Then what happened? The Alter Rebbe passed away and his son, the Mittler Rebbe, took over as Rebbe. And Kusha Lepler would come in to the study halls to see what everybody was learning and reviewing the Maimarim of the Mittler Rebbe. And he had a very, very hard time with it because the style of the Chassidus that the Alter Rebbe used to teach and the Mitzvah Rebbe used to teach was completely different. We're learning the Alter Rebbe's Chassidus for a reason. We're not learning the Mitzvah Rebbe's Chassidus for a reason. The Mitzvah Rebbe would sometimes go straight teaching Chassidus for 24 hours straight. And his Chassidim would all stay there for 24 hours straight. The Tzemach Tzedek, by the way, couldn't handle this and didn't, at some point stopped going to the Farbrengens of the Mitzvah Rebbe. He was more like the Alter Rebbe, like the Suddar and times. So the Chassidus that the Mitzvah Rebbe taught was very, very, very deep. Now, the Chassidus that the Alter Rebbe taught was very deep as well. In a way, you could say that it was more deep because it was less opened up. It was less elaborated on. But the moment you take something deep and you elaborate it, you open it up, suddenly, intellectually, it's a feat to understand. And Rabbi Yekusiel Lepler, even though he was a tzaddik, he wasn't a very smart person. He was a simple person. He was a shopkeeper. And suddenly, he didn't understand the Chassidus that the Rebbe was teaching. And all of these young Bocharim were sitting around, and they were learning, and they were understanding, and he was very frustrated by this. He couldn't understand. He would say, like, I understand the beginning and the end, but the beer I don't understand, right? We've talked about the structure, that there's the beginning of the Maimon, the opening verse, the end, which kind of explains it. Then there's the whole middle that brings all these sources of Kabbalah. He used to say, I don't understand the beer. So he went to the Mitzvah Rebbe for a Yechidus, for a one-on-one meeting. And what did he ask the Mitzvah Rebbe? The same thing that he asked the Alter Rebbe. He asked him to make him a tzaddik, to help him in his service of God, to experience real love and fear of God, not to have an evil inclination. What did he ask the Mitzvah Rebbe? To give him a brain. The Alter Rebbe gave me a heart. Your father gave me a heart. You need to give me a brain, because I don't understand what you're talking about, and I want to understand your Chassidus. And what did the Mitzvah Rebbe tell him? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He would not give him a bracha for this. He said, if you sit and you dedicate yourself to this, you're going to be able to do it. Rabbi Yekusiel Lepler sat for years and years and years, and he broke his head, and he learned Chassidus to the point that he became what you would call the mashpia of all of the students of the Mitzvah. They would come to Rabbi Yekusiel Lepler to have him explain the Mayanot. He sat and he just broke his brain. He just sat for hours and hours, and he worked really, really, really hard to the point that he got it, and that he was able to share it and explain it to others who had a much more sophisticated way of thinking than he did. And it was famous that when it came to Chassidus, he knew everything. When it came to Gemara or other parts of Torah, he was a simple person. But when it came to Chassidus, he broke himself, and to the point that he really got there. And this story is there also to emphasize this point, that something that I really, really, really love about Chabad Chassidus is that you're never going to, if you go and ask somebody who really knows Chassidus, who's learned it a lot, you ask them a question in Chassidus, you're never going to get an answer of, okay, maybe you will if you're in a class setting and there's a limited amount of time, okay? But if this is a serious, somebody's sitting there and taking the time, you're never going to get an answer, you're not going to get that. That you won't get. If somebody tells you that, by the way, and again, if it's in a class setting and it's just like, this is going to overtake the class for the next 3 years, fine, fair. But if this is a real serious conversation and you come with a real question in Chassidus, and the person who seemingly knows more Chassidus than you answers, you're not going to get that, just leave it. That's against fundamentally the whole approach of what Chabad Chassidus is. The whole premise of Chabad Chassidus is that if you do the work, you will get it. And if you get it, and then you do the work from getting it intellectually to making that real within your emotions, within your habits, within your personality, you're going to feel it. It's going to become real. It's going to work. There was once somebody who came to the Rebbe and said, I'm learning Chassidus and it's not working. Like, it's not changing me. So what did the Rebbe tell him?
You're not learning enough.
You're not learning enough. Not learning properly. Learn more. Do more. Because there's no such thing. Chassidus is supposed to fundamentally change you as a person. That's what the whole point is. That's what the whole point is. And it's supposed to be done, it's Chabad, through understanding, through meditating, through thinking about these concepts. And the idea that we want someone to just gift us this understanding, or gift us this inner work and make it easy for us, this mimer is going to come and tell us the hard truth, which is that it's never going to happen. And the mimer is going to explain to us why that is, why it's actually impossible for God to change us, okay, which is a little bit of a harsh reality to bring in, but that's what we're going to be exploring.
But we do have this concept of, I forgot the term that the Alter Rebbe uses in the
Is
Tanya.
Sarosa de Leila?
No.
No, okay.
In the Tanya, when he talks about like this innate love and
Yes.
that we are born with.
Yes, the Ava Mesuteret,
Yeah.
the concealed love. Yeah.
That like we're gifted from like the Avos. From
Yeah.
Abraham.
That's given to us as an inheritance.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the word there that we need to focus on is Mesuteret. Mesuteret means concealed. It's there. It's our birthright. And what does this mean? That there's a love that's there, that it's our birthright. That it's in every single Jew's ability to have a personal, real relationship with God. That's what love is. Love is real. Taking a relationship and it's putting something real in it, right? It's in every single one of our ability, but it's not handed to us. It's concealed. It's there, but we have to do the work to reveal it. And that's really what this time that we find ourselves in is all about, this Sfira to Omer time, as we're going to discuss. It's the real hard work that comes along after all the free gifts that we got on Pesach. You know, God, Pesach is leaps. God just schlepped us out of Egypt, and he does it every year. And then we experience this high, and then it comes down to making that real for ourselves. And that's the only thing that's the only thing that is real and that is valuable. Are the things that we worked hard to get. And there's two reasons for that. I think I brought this before. There's many reasons, but the two primary ones is, one, we don't appreciate things that were given to us for free. We really don't. Even though we spend most of our lives dreaming of all the things that, like, if only would be given to us for free then, right? You can insert whatever that is. If I win the lottery, or if I just, someone just gives me whatever it is. The truth is that when we do get that, the things that we work for free, we don't appreciate it because it came for free, right? And the second thing, and I've said this before, is that even if we do appreciate it, we get really, really excited because somebody gave us something for free, we don't have the inner tools and vessels to hold on to it because we haven't changed internally as a person who can level up. We always want somebody else to level us up, right? But if we do get leveled up by somebody else, we can't handle the gifts that we've been given. We can't actually appreciate them even because internally we don't have the vessels to hold on to it. So it's going to come and go, right? As I've mentioned many, many times, the statistic that over 50% of people who win the lottery within 5 years have as much money as they started, if not less. Many have less money 5 years down the line than they started before they won the lottery. And that's not only because they didn't appreciate the money. It's because they didn't build themselves up internally to know how to be a wealthy person. It's too, and if you look at the way that the Rebbe gave a certain respect to wealthy people, and you can say, oh, that's because he wanted their money. No, the Rebbe did not need their money. The Rebbe knew that his money came from Hashem, and so why was there a certain respect that the Rebbe gave to wealthy people? Because there's a certain inner work and process that needs to happen to be able to make money and hold on to it. Okay? And now, not everybody does that purely, right? And there's, not saying that if somebody's wealthy, that makes them a better person or more work done person than somebody else. But if somebody's standing in a situation where they've put in the work to make a lot of money, and they have held on to that money, and now they want to give that money, there's a certain outward kind of work that we can see that they've done. There's a certain maturity and depth to that person. So with that long introduction, we're going to go inside, okay? And hopefully we're going to be able to see how the Alter Rebbe hones in this message, which the results we see very, very strongly in many, many, many years later, over 200 years later, in the Chabad Chassidic movement, where we know that the inner work is that which is emphasized much more than the outer atmosphere, the outer environment, which is why we have Chabad Chassidim who move to random places where there is definitely no Rebbe nearby, and no community nearby, and they're able to change the place around them instead of being changed by the environment, because of the inner work that had to happen in order to do that, because of the emphasis on that it's up to you, which again is really what yesterday was all about, where the Rebbe said, I have done all that I can, and now it's up to you to bring Mashiach. Okay.
What do you mean, yes?
Yesterday was the 28th of Nisan, I think. We
Yeah.
established that it was yesterday. I thought that it was Friday.
Yeah.
28th of Nisan was the day where the Rebbe, and now I'm not remembering the year. Unfortunately. I'm like, and I don't have my phone next to me, so I can't check. But somewhere in the 80s, I'm pretty sure, that on the 28th of Nisan, the Rebbe got up in a Farbrengen and said, I have done, and this is abbreviated, there's more context, but I have done all that I can to bring Mashiach, and now it's up to you. I'm putting it on you, on every single chassid.
I saw that in the Rebbe video.
Yes, there's a video of it. There's a video
Jen
of
put
it.
out the video yesterday.
Yesterday, because
Motzei
Shabbos, because it was yesterday, right, the 28th of Nisan. And then there's another video, which is a little bit more like scary, with the woman who comes.
It was in the video.
It was in the video where she came and said, but Rebbe, we're relying on you. And yeah, you could see it on the one hand as, the Chassidim were very, very shaken up by this. Very shaken up by this. And at the same time, so on the one hand, it's a very, very big responsibility.
But if he did all he could, then he should have died right there. I don't understand. How did he still have a mission?
From the way I understand it, okay, so now, from the way I understand it, the Rebbe is saying there's a personal Mashiach and there's a collective Mashiach. The Rebbe didn't need Mashiach for himself personally. The Rebbe was living, the Rebbe saw Hashem in a way that we don't. But the Rebbe was saying, I have done all I can to bring Mashiach for everybody. I've done all that I can alone. I've done all that I can on my own. Now it's on you to actually take what I have given you and use it. And the Rebbe said that I'm just going to put out another sefer, I'm going to put out another mimer, and it's going to sit on the shelf, and no one's going to... It's something that we don't appreciate today as much as then. The Rebbe used to give... Are you guys familiar with Rashi Sichas, for example? Rashi Sichas are the Rebbe's Sichas that he would give talks where he would explain something, bring a question in Rashi and explain it. And it's like a level of genius and understanding of Torah that's unparalleled. And people today are very into learning Rashi Sichas. The Rebbe used to give out Rashi Sichas every week for years. And pretty much nobody would learn them. You listen, but how much can you understand when you're standing and listening there, and if you're all the way in the back, and if you don't understand Yiddish, and if it's very loud? So you're there maybe, and not everyone is actually out there for bringing. And then a pamphlet would come out so everybody could learn it. Nobody was learning it. The Rebbe actually stopped giving over Rashi Sichas because nobody was learning them, okay? The Rebbe pushed the vast amount of Torah that we have from the Rebbe. It could fill this room. It's just beyond understanding. And today we appreciate it in a way that then actually it was taken for granted. Oh, the Rebbe said something last week. He gave over a Torah thought. This week is going to give over another Torah thought. Let's go to Zanen. The Rebbe was saying, I have done what I can.
He didn't give over more
alone.
After that?
Not after this specific 28th of Nisan, but there was a time the Rebbe wrote, I think it was a letter about the Rashi Sichas, that nobody's learning them, and I'm not giving them over anymore. The Rebbe stopped giving over the Rashi Sichas.
Giving over Torah after this speech?
So that's the difference. That you're saying, what did the Rebbe have left to do? The Rebbe is saying, I have done all that I can alone, on my own to bring Mashiach for everybody. Which means that I'm not going to stop doing what I'm doing, but you've got to all do what you've got to do, because Mashiach's not going to come otherwise. There really was this attitude and this belief, and there still is to some extent, that the tzaddikim are the ones who are going to bring redemption to the world. It's on them. What do you want from me? I'm just a regular person. And the Rebbe really flipped that on its head, saying, I, as a tzaddik, as a nasi, as the leader of the generation, have done what I can on my own to bring Mashiach. And the Rebbe said, by the fact that Mashiach has not come, clearly it hasn't worked, which means that you've all got to do what you've got to do. Now, the Rebbe gives us the tools, but he doesn't actually pick them up and use them for us, right? Okay, so we are learning the Maimon of Adam Ki Yakriv, which, as we said, Adam Ki Yakriv is the second verse in the third book of Moshe, which we call Vayikra, Leviticus, or Torah Kayanim. So we're going to read on the left side the verse, which on Wednesday we did learn different commentaries about, and then we're going to start asking some questions on it. So, Vayikra el Moshe, and Hashem called to Moshe. And as I mentioned, in the Torah itself, the Aleph is small, okay? The Aleph in the Torah itself is a small Aleph. Vayikra el Moshe, Vayadaber Hashem elav, and Hashem spoke to him, Me'ohel Mayat, from the tent of meeting. There was a special tent that Moshe would go to have private audience with God. Leimar, to say, Daber el Bnei Yisrael, speak to the Jewish people, V'amarta alehem, and say to them. That's the first verse, which has a lot of questions on the first verse. We're not going to get into them in this. We're not going to elaborate on them in this Maimar. Second verse, what did Hashem tell Moshe to say to them? The truth is, the entire book of Vayikra is what Hashem told Moshe to say to them. All the laws of the korbanos. But there's like a summary verse that we're going to see here, which sums up all the korbanos in one verse, which is, what should you tell the Jewish people? Adam, a man, Ki Yakriv mikem, when he will sacrifice from among you, korban la Hashem, a sacrifice to Hashem, min ha-behema, from the domesticated animals. Which domesticated animals? Min ha-bakar, min ha-tzayin, from the cows and from the sheep. Takrivu et korbanchem, you will sacrifice your sacrifices. This is the verse. As we started to mention on Wednesday, there's a lot of questions on this verse, and the fundamental question, which the Alter Rebbe doesn't actually ask, but the real question is, why do we even need this verse in the first place? It's completely extra. What Hashem told Moshe to tell the Jewish people is outlined in the whole Vayikra, all the different laws. Why have a verse that says, go tell the Jewish people that they need to bring sacrifices. Sacrifice your sacrifices. Okay, which sacrifices? Then Vayikra goes to detail them. But the Rebbe has the Alter Rebbe has three grammatical questions on this verse. If you look at the verse from the English, when a man will offer from among you, I want everyone to look into the English and see what grammatical things are a little funny here. When a man will offer from among you an offering to Hashem, it shall be from... Yeah, what was here? What's off here in the beginning?
Why does he say Adam?
What is the Adam? So that is a question that we're going to allude to. But that's not one that the Alter Rebbe actually asks over at the beginning, because it's not a grammatical issue, but it's a question. There's different ways you can refer to man: ish, enosh, gever, and Adam, right? And when we're talking about sacrifices, we're usually talking about somebody who sinned and then is bringing a sacrifice to God. So Adam is the highest level that we're referring to about man. So that's a funny one. Yep. So why Adam? What else? When a man will offer from among you. What's funny there?
It switches from singular to plural.
Correct. It starts off in singular. When a man, a singular man, it does not say when people, when men, will offer from among you an offering. And then how does it end? You don't see it in English because we don't have a plural word for you in English. Although I think that there used to be. Anyone know, like in Old English, I think there were different terms to refer to a singular person and a plural. But in Hebrew we have takrivu. The fact that it starts with a taf and ends with a vav like that means plural. You, plural, will sacrifice as korbanchem, the chaf and mem at the end. Plural, your sacrifices. So it starts off singular, a singular man, and ends off in the very same verse in plural, correct? That's one funny one that we have to understand. What else is funny about the verse? You can look in the English to see it.
The word mikem.
The word mikem. What's funny about it?
It's just like weird, like that it's in the middle of what a man, it should say like what a man from among you will offer, not what a man will offer from among you.
Correct. It should have said when a man from among you will offer. What does it sound like when it says when a man will offer from among you? When a man will offer a sacrifice from among you. It sounds a bit like that, right? which is strange because we know that that's clearly not what it's talking about. We don't have human sacrifice. It's when he's going to offer a sacrifice from among you. It's like he's picking out one of the Jewish people to sacrifice. That's so strange. Why not say when a man from among you and a Jewish person from among the Jewish people will sacrifice a sacrifice? So that's another big question. The placing of the word mikem is strange. It should have said in the Hebrew, Adam mikem ki yakriv, a man from among you when he will sacrifice. Instead it says, Adam ki yakriv, a man when he will sacrifice mikem from among you. So that's the next question. And then there's a third question. You look in the English, you could see it. Read the whole verse. And it's again, this is a grammar question. So it's on the language that he uses.
Why does it say like an offering like twice? Like it shall be
Okay.
an offering to Hashem, and then at the end it says, "Shall you bring your offering?"
Okay, so that is not a question that the Alter Rebbe asks explicitly, but he actually answers that question that you're asking. So put a pin in that. Yes. First, it talks about offering twice. What's the difference between the offering at the beginning? When a man will offer from among you an offering, you shall bring your offering. Right? It says it twice. Correct. And then the last one is the switching from third person to second person. The verse starts off, when a man will offer from among you, right? Adam Ki Yakriv, in the Hebrew, Yakriv means when he will sacrifice. Oh, so the truth is, you don't see it as much as in the English. That's a bit of a... I think they're trying to make it make sense in the English in the translation. So you don't see the discrepancy. But if you look in the Hebrew, Adam Ki Yakriv. Yakriv means a man when he will sacrifice. And then it ends off, Takrivu et korbanchem. You will sacrifice your sacrifices. So within the same verse, it switches from third person, he will sacrifice, to second person, you will sacrifice, in the same verse. And the question is, why is that? Okay? So we actually came up with 5 questions here, which we're going to address all of them. The Alter Rebbe is going to bring 3. But let's bring all 5. Why Adam? Why does it use the term for man, which is called Adam? And there are many explanations for this. We brought that Adam means all humankind. Adam was the father of all people, and actually non-Jews are able to bring sacrifices as well. Adam also is the name for both man and woman. If you look in the Torah, it says, and God created them male and female, and he called their name Adam. Adam is referring to both male and female, which means that women are also able to bring sacrifices. But what we're trying to understand from Adam is that Adam is referring to a very high level of the highest form of human being. Why are we using that term and not a different one? So that's one question which is not asked explicitly, but we will address. The next question that Sophie brought up that is not asked explicitly, but would also be addressed, is why does it talk twice? A man when he will sacrifice from among you, you will sacrifice your sacrifices. Why does it say twice? Now we're going to read the 3 other ones that we read. We're going to read it inside. Okay? So, page 4, the Alter Rebbe asks 3 questions on the wording of this verse. Number 1, lahavin, we need to understand. Hachilu, the verse begins, sheloi l'noicheach, not in third person. No, sheloi l'noicheach, not in second person. The verse does not begin in second person. What does it begin? It begins in third person. Adam Ki Yakriv, a man when he will sacrifice, l'shen nistar. So nistar and noicheach are 2 grammatical terms in Hebrew. For noicheach means second person, nistar means third person. So it starts off in third person, v'siyem, and it finishes, takrivu et korbanchem, you will sacrifice your sacrifices, l'shon noicheach, second person. So it doesn't begin in second person, it begins in third person, and it ends off in second person. Question number 2. V'gam, also another question. The Ki Yakriv, when it says, and a man when he will sacrifice, Lashon Yachid, it's talking in singular language. A singular individual man when he will sacrifice. And then what does it say? V'takrivu et korbanchem, you, plural, will sacrifice your sacrifices, Lashon Rabim, in plural. And again, if you want to just highlight the grammar here, The yud at the beginning of the word Yakriv means he, singular he. The taf at the beginning of the word takrivu and the vav at the end together mean you plural. It changes it from singular to plural, okay? So that's just and also at the end of korban chem, it should have said korban cha if it was in singular. Chem, kaf, mem makes it plural, okay? Question number 3. And then we're done for grammar for the rest of this minor. V'gam, and also, dahava le lememar. It should have said, milat mikem, the word mikem, koidem ki Yakriv, before he will sacrifice. Hainu, meaning, what should it have said? Adam mikem ki Yakriv, a man from among you when he sacrifices. And instead, what does it say? A man when he was sacrificed from among you. So the placing of the word mikem is strange and seems to be insinuating that the person is being offered and not the animal. Okay? Those are the 3 questions. So we had the introduction, the opening verse. We had the questions. Now we're going into the biur of the Maimar, the explanation of the Maimar, the meat of it. And the Alter is going to start by saying, in order to answer these questions, we first have to understand. However, we need to understand, and we'll finish off with this for today. Hine noida, it is known, sheyesh b'kol echad, that there is within every single individual person, beis nefashes, 2 souls, nefesh alekis, the godly soul, the nefesh ba'amit, and the animal soul. We have 2 souls. Okay? Now, why is this relevant? Because the fact that we have an animal soul is connected to the fact that we sacrifice a physical animal in the temple. And we're going to have to connect those. So, we're going to end off with that for today, and we're going to continue tomorrow in talking about the differences between these 2 souls, the differences in the source of these 2 souls. Where does the animal soul come from spiritually? Where does the godly soul come from spiritually? Why is it important to know where each of them come from? Why is that relevant? That we're going to get into tomorrow. So we're going to leave behind the verse. We're going to leave behind the topic of sacrifices. We're going to leave behind the grammatical questions. We're going to talk about the 2 different souls that we have, and then we're going to go back into the verse. Okay? So we will continue, please God, tomorrow. Have a wonderful day. Oh, I think that actually we continue later today, no? Or am I making... I think maybe we continue later, but it's fine. I'll give you guys one a little bit. I think on Sundays...
I think we start earlier normally.
Start earlier.
Except for we don't often.